The wedding was beautiful, until the spirit came to collect its debt. In the village of Aubanyen, marriage was not just a celebration. It was honor. It was pride. And for many families, it was proof that a man could provide. But for Kofi, the woman he loved was far beyond his reach. Amma was the daughter of Chief Mensa, a respected elder whose wealth stretched across farms, livestock, and trading routes. Men traveled from distant villages, hoping to marry her. But Amma chose Kofi, a struggling hunter who barely owned more than a leaking mud house and a rusty cutlass. People mocked him openly. They laughed whenever he walked through the market. Some said love had blinded him. Others said poverty had made him foolish. But Kofi refused to give up. Then the day came when he finally visited Amma's family to ask for her hand in marriage. The bride price list was endless. Bags of cowries, goats, palm wine, gold bracelets, rare cloth, and enough money to feed an entire gathering. Kofi's face went pale. He knew immediately he could never afford it. That night, rain poured heavily across the village while Kofi sat alone outside his hut, staring into darkness. And that was when an old man appeared. Nobody heard him approach. Nobody saw where he came from. The old man stood beneath the rain without getting wet. His voice was calm. He told Kofi he knew about the bride price. He said he could help. At first, Kofi refused, but the old man smiled and whispered something that froze his blood. You love her enough to suffer for her? But do you love her enough to sacrifice for her? The old man told him to meet him at the edge of the forbidden forest before sunrise. Kofi should have walked away. But desperation is a dangerous thing. Before dawn, he entered the forest, carrying nothing but fear. Deep inside the trees stood a forgotten shrine covered in animal bones, candles, and strange markings burned into the earth. The old man was waiting. Beside him sat a clay pot overflowing with gold, cowries, and riches, far beyond anything Kofi had ever seen. The old man said the wealth would be his, enough to marry Amma, enough to become respected, enough to change his bloodline forever. But there was one condition. When the time comes, the old man said, you must repay what is owed. Kofi hesitated. He asked what the payment would be, but the old man only smiled. And somehow, that terrified him more. Still, Kofi agreed. The ritual began. Animals screamed from deep within the forest, though none could be seen. The wind suddenly stopped moving, and as Kofi placed his hand upon the shrine, blood slowly trickled from his palm onto the gold. The old man whispered ancient words into the darkness. Then everything went silent. By morning, Kofi returned to the village rich beyond imagination. The wedding preparations shocked everyone. People who once mocked him now bowed respectfully. Chief Mensa himself became impressed, and within weeks, Kofi and Amma were married in the largest celebration Aubanyen had seen in years. Drums echoed through the night. Dancers filled the village square. Food overflowed from wooden tables. For the first time in his life, Kofi felt powerful. But happiness has a way of hiding danger. 3 months into the marriage, strange things began happening. It started with the goats. Every morning, one would be found dead outside the house. No wounds, no blood, just lifeless eyes staring upward. Then the nightmares began. Amma would wake up shaking violently after seeing a shadow standing beside their bed. Sometimes, she heard footsteps circling the house at night. Other times, she heard chains dragging across the dirt outside their door. Kofi tried to ignore it, but deep inside, he already knew. The debt had come back. One night, while heavy winds battered the village, someone knocked on their door. 3 slow knocks. Kofi opened it carefully. Nobody was there. only muddy footprints leading away into darkness. The next morning, Amma discovered something horrifying. Written across their wall in red markings were the words, "Pay what you owe." Fear spread through the household. Amma begged Kofi to tell her the truth, but shame kept his mouth closed. Days later, their unborn child suddenly stopped moving inside her womb. The village healer could not explain it. Amma grew weaker with every passing night, and Kofi began seeing the old man everywhere, standing near trees, watching from the market, appearing beside rivers, always smiling, always waiting. Finally, Kofi returned to the forbidden forest. The shrine was still there, but the old man no longer looked human. His eyes were completely black, his skin looked cracked like burned wood, and the air around him smelled like death. Kofi fell to his knees and begged for mercy. He offered money, livestock, land, anything. But the spirit shook its head slowly. The payment was never wealth. Kofi's breathing stopped. The spirit stepped closer. "You promised what would come from the marriage." That was when Kofi understood. The curse was never attached to the money. It was attached to the bloodline. The spirit wanted the child. Kofi tried to fight back, but the forest itself seemed alive. Branches twisted around him. Whispers filled the darkness. The spirit reminded him that every blessing he enjoyed had been borrowed, and borrowed things must always return to their owner. That same night, Amma disappeared. Villagers searched rivers, forests, and roads for days, but they found nothing. Only her beads scattered near the edge of the forbidden forest. Kofi lost his mind afterward. Some say he wandered the village for years, screaming Amma's name into the night. Others claim he was later seen entering the forest willingly, as though something inside was calling him home.
Let me take the gold
But the
and
elders
save
of
my
O'Banion
family.
still warn young
Great
men about
spirits.
greed, desperation, and forbidden bargains. Because sometimes, the most expensive bride price is not paid with money. It is paid with blood.